Hey everyone, it's Dr. Nightstare. Glad you're here. Before we get into it, hit like and subscribe. It really helps the channel. Quick question before we start. Where are you watching from, and what time is it for you right now? Alright, let's get settled. Get comfortable, let your body relax, and just take it easy. The scratchy suit pressed my skin. Each December morning brought another line of children, another shift in the hard chair. My lower back always ached. The pay was low. Many small children cried the moment parents placed them on my knee. Some stared at my big beard, their faces blurred into a constant stream. Sometimes a child offered a smile, or a small hand squeezed my gloved arm. Those moments helped the long hours pass. I always waited for closing. The line continued its slow crawl forward. Then a boy and his mother approached. He walked with a careful stride, his posture rigid. He wore a dark suit, perfectly tailored, and his shoes gleamed. His face held an intense, sober expression. He showed no eagerness or shyness. His eyes, dark and still, fixed on me with a directness that made my smile feel less genuine. His mother guided him to the front. She kept her gaze fixed on the floor, her fingers tightly intertwined at her waist. A nervous energy emanated from her. Fear shadowed her movements. The boy did not need help getting onto my lap. He climbed up himself, moving with controlled grace. He settled onto my knee. The pressure of his body was unexpected and heavy. It was a solid, unsettling mass. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. The air around us grew cold. He just sat there, quiet, watching me with those old, dark eyes. "What do you want for Christmas?" I asked, my voice a forced rumble. He looked at me with dark eyes. "I want a drone," he stated, his voice flat. "And a new video game console." He leaned forward. His mouth moved close to my ear and I felt a chill spread down my back. He whispered his true desires. He wanted people to bow to him. He wanted their souls. He would make them afraid. The words felt like ice in my ear. My smile vanished. My heart pounded a frantic rhythm. The mall lights blurred around me, and the synthetic beard became a suffocating mask. I stared at him with a dry mouth. He sat there, still and composed. The boy stared at me, his dark eyes not wavering, and the camera flash popped. The photographer continued his work, oblivious to the words that still echoed in my ears. No one else moved or reacted to the sudden cold that gripped my chest. The mother's lips formed a silent thank you, and she gently took the boy's hand. They walked away then, disappearing into the stream of mall shoppers. My hands gripped the armrests of my chair, and I tried to breathe. The next child in line, a small girl clutching a doll, looked up at me with innocent eyes, but I saw only the boy's face, those dark eyes. I somehow finished the shift. The red suit became an unbearable weight. Later, in the cold night, in the parking lot, I finally felt everything give way. My body shook. My teeth chattered. I leaned against my car, gasping for air, the world spinning around me. The boy's chilling desires clawed at my mind, repeating his words. I closed my eyes, but I saw only him. I knew I would never truly be rid of him. Amir and Suzanne walked toward Anna's front door, the late afternoon sun warm on their faces. Anna opened the door instantly, dressed in a bright yellow sundress. Her smile stretched wide across her face, showing every tooth, a practiced sweetness to it. "Amir, Suzanne, how lovely to see you both one last time," she said. Her voice pitched a little too high. Suzanne's hand found mine, her fingers pressing into my palm as Anna ushered us into the apartment. The air inside felt thick, strangely warm. We settled onto her plush sofa while Anna brought out a tray with Earl Grey tea and delicate shortbread biscuits. She spoke endlessly about my past, recalling trivial details of our shared history with a precision that felt invasive. Suzanne sat quietly beside me, her posture rigid, her gaze fixed on the ornate fireplace. My own skin began to prickle, a faint unease spreading through me. After what felt like an eternity, Anna rose with a sudden, fluid movement. She returned holding a velvet-lined box. "A little something for your new home," she announced, her smile never wavering as she presented it. Inside rested a crystal vase, intricately cut with sharp, severe angles. It felt surprisingly cold when I accepted it, its weight dense in my hands. Anna's eyes, bright and unblinking, watched me carefully, a strange intensity in their depth. A knot tightened in my stomach. Suzanne shifted, a quiet exhalation escaping her lips. We stood quickly, offering our thanks, the need to exit the apartment suddenly overwhelming us. We longed for the airport, for our flight to begin. The cool air outside Anna's apartment felt like a blessing against my skin, a physical release from the suffocating sweetness within. Suzanne squeezed my hand, a silent acknowledgement of our shared relief, and we hurried toward the waiting taxi. The crystal vase sat heavy in my lap as the car pulled away, but I pushed away the lingering unease, focusing on Suzanne's presence beside me. She voiced her remaining doubts. "There was something about her," Suzanne murmured, her brow furrowed. I leaned closer, kissing her temple. "Just Anna being Anna. It's over now. We are finally free to start our own life, just us." I tried to infuse my voice with conviction, hoping to banish the last shadows of that strange visit. We talked about our new apartment in London, the small garden we would plant, the quiet evenings we would share. A strong feeling of hope filled me. This was our fresh beginning, the slate wiped clean, a future stretching out bright and inviting before us. Everything felt perfectly aligned. The airport buzzed with the muted energy of departures. We checked our bags, passed through security, and found our gate with effortless ease. Boarding the plane, the familiar scent of recycled air and aviation fuel filled the cabin. We settled into our seats side by side, our hands clasped. The engines roared to life, vibrations traveled through the floor, and the plane surged forward, climbing steadily into the clear sky. Below us, the city lights became a disappearing mosaic. A sudden, violent jolt rocked the plane. My stomach lurched. The plane dropped, then rose violently, throwing us against our seatbelts. The cabin lights flickered, casting quick, changing shadows across the terrified faces of the other passengers. A piercing scream erupted from somewhere behind us. The crystal vase, tucked into the overhead compartment, rattled loudly against the metal. Another violent shudder tore through the aircraft, and the wings seemed to flex under an impossible strain. Oxygen masks dropped from the ceiling, and the plane spun sideways, descending rapidly, the engines sputtering. The plane bucked again, harder this time, and a fresh wave of screams tore through the cabin. My seatbelt bit into my flesh. The oxygen masks swung wildly, their plastic tubes tangling. I pressed myself against the seat, holding Suzanne close, but her grip was slack, her face pale with terror. The crystal vase rattled loudly again in the compartment overhead, and the sound ripped through the screams, sharper than the tearing metal. Anna's face, her wide, unblinking eyes, flashed in my mind. The vase, a dense weight in my hands when she gave it to me, now seemed to vibrate with a terrible energy. This chaos, this destruction, came from that object, her cold malice concentrated within its sharp angles. It was her. She was doing this. A sudden, desperate need surged through me, overpowering the paralyzing fear. I had to get it. I had to stop her. I tore at my seatbelt buckle, my fingers clumsy. The plane dropped another 100 feet, throwing me against the ceiling for a sickening moment before slamming me back into my seat. Suzanne's eyes widened, but I barely registered her expression. I lunged across her, scrambling over the armrest. The aisle was a terrifying blur of flailing limbs and terrified faces. I pushed past an older man, his eyes wide and unseeing. The plane pitched violently, and I slammed my shoulder into the overhead bins, a sharp pain shooting through me. I clawed my way forward, reaching for the compartment above our seats. My fingers closed around the cold crystal. It vibrated under my touch, an undeniable hum of malevolent power. I wrenched it free, pulling the heavy, inert weight into my hands. The plane spun, descending faster, the engines sputtering and dying. Time stretched. I had to break it. I had to destroy it. I lifted the vase high over my head, despite the crushing G-forces trying to pin me to the floor. With all my strength, I brought it down, slamming the sharp, intricate angles of the crystal onto the metal armrest of the nearest vacant seat. The shattering sound of the crystal ripped through the air, and then, as abruptly as it began, the violent shuddering stopped. An unsettling silence replaced the roar, broken only by the ragged breaths of the passengers. The plane, still listing, began to level out. A chilling understanding settled over me, colder than the fractured air rushing through the now quiet cabin. The neighborhood changed fast. Murders began weeks ago, and the bodies kept appearing in every street. At first, people whispered about gang fights, a usual problem. Then a child was found near the school gates, a grandmother in her kitchen, and a young man leaving the grocery store. The victims were everyone. The city officials spoke about a spike in crime, but we knew this was something else, something worse. Each new report shredded any hope of understanding, leaving behind only raw dread. Fear kept everyone inside their homes. Now the curfew approached, a harsh rule enforced to keep us off the streets after dark. It did not bring safety. It only marked the hours until the next discovery, the next loss, intensifying the terror gripping our community. The convenience store clock blinked its harsh warning, the numbers too close to curfew. My twisted ankle burned with each frantic step, sending a sharp ache through my leg. The street stretched before me, completely empty. No cars moved, no people walked. My worn shoes against the pavement were the only sound disturbing the growing quiet, a rhythmic slap breaking the stillness. Every breath I took came out as a ragged gasp, loud in the empty night. I peered into the shadowed doorways and down darkened alleys, seeing only deeper blackness. Each second pressed down, pushing me faster, showing me how exposed I felt. My apartment building waited far down this long, empty road. I just needed to reach my door before the curfew closed the city. The apartment building grew larger with each painful step, a dark block against the night until I stood before my own door. My trembling fingers found the cold metal of the doorknob. I fumbled with the key, pushing it into the lock until the tumbler clicked. The small sound echoed loudly in the stillness. I twisted the handle, and the door swung inward, opening into the dark apartment. I stepped inside, pulling the door shut with a solid click behind me. My hand went immediately to the worn strap of my shoulder bag. I unzipped the main pocket, reaching inside for the object. My fingers closed around the cold skin. I pulled the severed head out, its eyes staring. I held it up to the biometric scanner mounted on the wall beside the doorframe. A blue light scanned the features, then a green indicator pulsed. The lock on the door released with a quiet thud. I was home. The terror gripping our community was my doing. I unlocked the office door at 7, the recycled air waiting. I arranged the stale crackers and the juice boxes on the small table. My work proceeded with a reliable rhythm. A new boy started coming to my afternoon sessions. He never spoke a word. Every Tuesday and Thursday he entered the room, walked directly to the worn armchair in the corner, and sat down. He always reached for the orange fruit snacks, carefully tearing the packaging along the perforation. The edges were always straight, no jagged tears. He pulled his phone from his pocket, the screen already lit. He opened TikTok, showing cat videos. He scrolled through them with an unblinking gaze, his thumb moving with a deliberate, mechanical precision across the glass. At first, I barely noticed. Most children spent their time on screens. Days turned into weeks, and his routine remained unchanged. The same worn chair received him. The orange snacks were always consumed with the same methodical pace. An endless stream of cats played across his phone screen. His face held no expression, his eyes fixed. He never acknowledged my presence, not even with a flicker of his gaze. His movements grew unnerving in their exactness. His fingers navigated the phone with an unhesitating precision, each swipe a perfect, unvaried stroke. The gentle purrs and playful meows from the screen filled the small office. He sat absolutely still, a silent, rigid figure. This was a deeply ingrained performance, a private, unnerving ceremony unfolding before me. A prickle of unease grew, breaking through my professional detachment, becoming a quiet dread. The cat videos changed, subtly at first. The playful leaps froze mid-air. The soft purrs muted into a low, continuous sound. The digital felines held unnaturally still poses on the screen, their bodies rigid, their tails unmoving. I leaned closer to his phone, a prickle of alarm growing within me. I saw my desk, the muted green of the walls, even my own pale face, tiny and warped, reflected in their unblinking digital eyes. The screen suddenly distorted with a jolt. The familiar cat video dissolved into static, then reformed into a new, terrifying image. It showed my own office, exactly as it was at that moment from the same angle as my chair. I watched my digital figure, seated at the desk, observing the boy. A dark, jagged form writhed into view directly behind my own projected image. It had no discernible shape, a shifting void, yet its presence was absolute, pressing close to my digital self, hovering just out of my real line of sight. It was there, waiting, a hungry thing without feature. His thumb stopped moving. He lowered the phone, slowly, deliberately, his eyes finally lifting from the screen to meet mine. His gaze, unblinking and direct, held a deep, knowing understanding. "Cats always watch," he said, his voice a dry, thin whisper. This was the first time he had spoken. "They see everything you cannot see, the things that wait just behind you." He paused, his head tilting slightly. A cold dread seeped into me. "Your cat, Lexi, misses you. She sleeps on your pillow, watching your empty bed." The boy's words followed me home, a cold weight in my mind. Lexi wound around my ankles as I entered my apartment, her usual greeting. I picked up my phone, a reflex to calm the rising dread. I opened TikTok. The usual endless stream of mundane content had vanished. My personal feed was replaced with a single video, playing on a loop. The video showed my own living room. The perspective was impossible. It began from a viewpoint inside my own mouth, the fleshy pink walls pulsing around the lens. My teeth were enormous white structures. The image lurched forward, forcing its way down my throat. My esophagus stretched, a dark tunnel. Then the camera was behind my eyes, showing the optic nerves, the raw, wet components of my vision. I saw my own reflection in the back of my pupils, tiny and terrified. The next video showed my hands, filmed from inside my skin. The bones showed through the skin. My fingers flexed, tendons pulled, stretched tightly. Each movement was grotesque, an anatomical horror. The videos scrolled, each one more horrifying than the last. They showed my organs, my beating heart, every pulse a sickening thump against the unseen camera. My stomach churned, a churning mass of digestive fluid. Then the loop began to change. The scene shifted. I saw my kitchen, Lexi on the counter, her eyes wide. The boy stood beside her. Both of them looked at me, a silent, predatory gaze. The video zoomed in, showing their mouths opening impossibly wide. They began to consume me. My body twisted, pulled apart in ways that defied physics. My limbs stretched, becoming thin and elongated. Then they snapped. My flesh tore, not with blood, but with digital static and pixelated grit. The scene reset, the loop starting again. Each time, the consumption became more vivid, more physically impossible. My body distended, then compressed, consumed by their digital hunger. Lexi's fur bristled with glitching light. Her teeth grew into impossibly sharp, shimmering blades. The boy's eyes glowed with a flat, digital light as he pulled at my arm. I screamed, but no sound came from the phone, only the sickening tearing of pixels. The video repeated, an endless, mutating horror. My mind fractured, unable to reconcile the digital reality with my own dissolving self. My breath caught in my throat. I could not look away. Every frame ripped at the edges of my sanity. The looping consumption filled my vision, a grotesque demise repeating endlessly. The doctor called it stress. I felt a constant tension, a tightness in my chest. Lexi watched me from the foot of my bed, her eyes bright and unwavering. I made the call to the shelter, my voice low as I arranged her rehoming. It was a practical decision, a necessary step towards regaining control. I packed her favorite toys, her blanket, a bag of her special food. Returning to the office felt different. I sat at my desk. The corner chair where the boy always sat remained empty. I opened the digital archives, intending to close his case file. His name was not there. I searched again, checking every spelling, every date. There was no referral, there was no intake form, there was no official record of the boy ever being assigned to my project, or even existing within the system records. A heavy sensation settled over me. I broadened my search, sifting through archived social work reports, looking beyond my immediate project into district-wide files. Hours passed. Then I found it. The report was old, several years prior. It detailed a child found in severe neglect. He was thin, starving, locked alone in an apartment for weeks. The final line of the report captured my gaze. Authorities found him with a half-consumed cat carcass in his arms. His eyes were wide and vacant. The words filled the screen. The orange fruit snacks, the precise movements, the endless TikTok cats, Lexi's knowing gaze, the impossible consumption videos. All of it rearranged into a new, disturbing understanding. Was the boy truly there in my office, a tangible presence? Or had my mind, stretched and broken, conjured his image, a distorted echo of an unacknowledged horror, born from the very screens we stared into? The world around me shifted. The chair in the corner remained empty. I knew with a chilling certainty I would never truly be alone again. The reality of those events, both digital and physical, remained an unsolved question, leaving only an enduring dread. I held the tiller, my knuckles white and my eyes burning against the gray sea. The memory of the fire burned in my mind, and a smell of smoke and salt always stayed with me. I saw the children, their pale faces bobbing just beneath the waves, their eyes wide and staring, even when my waking mind saw them as phantoms. I had not slept in days. The boat offered refuge from the land and its memories, but the boat offered no escape from my thoughts. My eyelids grew heavy. The boat swayed gently, a motion that pulled me down into a dark sleep. I dreamed of the inferno again, the flames rising high into the night, the cries echoing across the water. Then the dream shifted. I was underwater, cold and struggling, and dozens of cold hands grabbed at my legs, pulling me deeper. Their laughter bubbled around me, a chilling sound of wet earth and decay. I saw their faces clearly now. The children from my waking fears, their hair streaming like seaweed, their eyes black. I woke with a gasp, drenched in sweat, my heart hammering against my ribs. The dream lingered, a cold dread clinging to me. I swung my legs over the bunk, my bare feet hitting the cabin floor. Then I stopped. Wet footprints marked the deck boards, leading from the companionway down into the galley. Water dripped from the ceiling, leaving wet trails on the wooden panels. I backed away, my breath catching in my throat. I stumbled onto the deck, needing air, needing to see the familiar sea. The moon cast a silver path across the water. I stared out, my eyes scanning the surface. A small face broke the waves for a moment, its skin pale, its eyes wide before disappearing again beneath the shifting surface. It was here. It had to be here. The face in the water propelled me below deck. I fumbled with the heavy hatch, forcing it shut, then throwing the bolt across the solid wood. I leaned against the locked hatch, listening to the creak and groan of the hull. Then I heard them, a low murmur at first, a gurgling sound not from the water outside, but from the timber surrounding me, a chorus weaving through the very planks of the boat. The voices grew louder, and a dark stain appeared on the bulkhead beside me, then another, spreading across the paneling. The wood itself began to leak, cold water oozing from the grain, dripping onto the floorboards, soaking into my clothes. I watched as the water on the wall shimmered, twisting, and a pale hand, too small, too thin, pushed through the wet wood. A child's face followed, eyes wide and black, emerging slowly from the boat's interior, followed by another, then another, until they were everywhere, rising from the floor, pushing through the ceiling, their ethereal bodies solidifying around me. They were not outside at all. They were part of the vessel, the boat itself transforming into their watery prison, and their cold presence filled the entire cabin, pressing in on me from every direction. Their cold presence pressed in, and my hand went to my knife. I lunged, cold steel flashing, thrusting the blade at a child. It passed through the shimmering form, meeting no resistance, and the futility sickened me. Their wet laughter rose as I stumbled back, desperate for air. My gaze fixed on the heavy hatch, and I shoved past the children, their cold forms brushing me, scrambling up the ladder to rip the hatch open. I burst onto the deck, gasping. The children followed, rising from the companionway. I tore down the storm lantern near the mast, striking a match until a small flame flickered to life. I swung the burning lantern forward, its light casting wild shadows. The children recoiled, hissing, their bright eyes narrowing. The fire pushed them back, a visible barrier, and their ethereal bodies dissolved. The deck cleared of their forms. I stood clutching the lantern, my chest heaving. The small flame was my defense against the lingering chill. They watched from the periphery, waiting for the fire to dim, but for now, I had a terrifying reprieve. The sea grew turbulent around me, quickly turning hostile. The wind rose with sudden violence, a gust ripping at my clothes and tearing through my hair. Dark clouds covered the moon completely, plunging the deck into a deep darkness where I could barely see my own hands. Waves grew quickly, towering forms that crashed against the hull with concussive force, sending blinding spray over the mast. I gripped the lantern, its small flame flickering. The children's voices returned, carried on the gale, a high-pitched wail that threaded through the roar of the storm, becoming part of its fury. I saw their forms within the towering walls of water, pale faces flashing in the foam, their limbs extending from the breaking crests of the waves. A massive wave broke over the bow, sweeping across the deck. I lost my footing. The lantern ripped from my hand as cold water engulfed me. I was pulled down, the weight of the sea pressing in from all sides. Cold hands gripped my legs and arms with solid, inescapable pressure. pulling me deeper into the dark, churning depths. I struggled, kicking and thrashing against the unseen forces. My lungs burned for air, a sharp pain, but the tenacious hands held me. I saw their faces, close now, in the swirling darkness of the underwater world, their mouths open, grim and pale. I fought with desperate strength, twisting my body against their hold. One hand slipped, then another, the grip loosened. I kicked again, a fierce, desperate surge, pushing myself upwards with every last bit of my power. My head broke the surface, gasping for air, choking on salt water. The storm still raged above the water, the boat scarcely visible, tossed violently by the enormous waves. I scrambled, pulling myself back onto the battered deck. Water streamed from my clothes. The lantern was gone, lost to the storm. I stood on the heaving deck, shivering, soaked to the bone, and exhausted. The children were not visible in the immediate chaos of the storm, but I felt their presence in the waves that crashed around the boat. I knew the sea had not finished with me. The children would return, and this terrifying existence would continue without end. Living with them always drained my energy. My one child had 4 distinct heads, each with its own thoughts and constant needs, making every day exhausting. Their medical requirements were extensive, a complex regimen managed mostly by the research facility that watched over their every development. Andy was the loudest and most demanding, often filling the room with his irritation. He claimed full control of the right arm, moving it with forceful intent. This constant negotiation between 4 minds in one body left me perpetually tired. Andy suddenly fixed his mind on a bicycle. He announced with firm conviction that riding one would bring them money from curious onlookers, a new scheme to exploit their unique condition. The idea seemed impossible, requiring an intricate balance among 4 distinct wills for their shared body. Andy, of course, took immediate command, declaring he would manage the pedals and the steering with his dominant right arm. John, who shared a neck with Andy, faded into the background as always, his quiet thoughts lost beneath Andy's forceful plans. I watched John's slight movements, seeing how he constantly yielded, and a deep worry settled in my chest for him. My desperation grew as I considered what extreme measures might give John some peace. Andy, always in command, propelled the bicycle onto the sidewalk using his right arm. John sat quiet and still while their shared body moved with a jerky power. The bicycle wobbled side to side, swaying from one edge of the path to the other. Andy's voice rose, a simple song carrying over the sound of the tires on the concrete. I stood on the porch watching them go down the street, my hands limp at my sides. Fatigue weighed on my limbs and dread filled my chest. My mind felt slow and heavy, unable to grasp or react, only observing the peculiar sight before me. A car suddenly shot out from the cross street. It turned wide and fast. The unsteady bicycle veered into its path. I saw a flash of metal and heard a violent impact. The bicycle crumpled, twisting into the side of the car, and the body was flung forward. Andy's head struck the curb with a brutal force. His eye stared for a moment, then went blank. Blood spread onto the pavement. My own breath caught in my throat. A scream stuck in my chest, and I could not move 1 inch. My eyes fixed on the crumpled bicycle and the fallen body. Blood darkened the pavement around Andy's ruined head. Then I saw movement at the neck. Torn flesh pulled back with a wet, tearing sound. 2 fresh forms pushed up from the stump where Andy's head had been. They swelled, skin stretching and cracking. Features formed, eyes opening, mouths shaping. 2 new heads, eerily similar to Andy, gazed out with sharp, hungry eyes. John's eyes were wide, unblinking, fixed on the grotesque forms emerging from his body. The other 2 heads remained still, paralyzed. A new voice, Two voices speaking in unison with Andy's loud tone tore through the air. "We need a new bike," the voices demanded with force, their eyes already scanning the street. The noise of the classroom lingered even after the bell, driving me toward the deserted stairwell. Every word spoken by my classmates felt like a demand. Each expectation from my father added a new burden. I needed a moment away from all of it. The concrete steps felt cold, and I slumped onto the bottom one, closing my eyes, wanting everything to disappear. Then a voice spoke, pulling me upright. I opened my eyes and saw a girl sitting on the step above me. Her eyes were an unsettling yellow, holding my gaze. She smiled. "You look tired," she said. "More than tired. You carry many worries." Her words startled me. She saw the academic dread and social exhaustion I tried to hide. It felt unnerving and deeply seen. "You wish for everything to stop, don't you?" she asked, leaning forward. "Yes," I managed, and the truth felt heavy, leaving me without words. "It's hard when everyone expects things from you," she continued, her yellow eyes steady. "It's hard when everyone expects things from you," she continued, her yellow eyes steady. "Your classmates, their noise never stops, does it? Always talking, always demanding, always pulling you in different directions. You just want them to be quiet." Her words resonated with shocking clarity, articulating the exact frustrations that had driven me to the stairwell. I had never allowed those thoughts to form with such clarity, but she spoke them as if reading from a page in my mind. "And your father," she went on, her gaze sharpening. "He sees the grades, the path, never the weight on your shoulders, never the struggle." A subtle pulse seemed to throb in the depths of her yellow eyes, a ripple that appeared and then vanished. I felt exposed, stripped bare of my hidden anxieties, yet a strange comfort spread through me. The feeling of being truly seen, of having my unvoiced burdens understood, was overwhelming. I found myself leaning forward, a confession forming on my lips, eager to unload every secret worry, every exhausting demand. She knew it all. The strange connection between us grew, pulling me deeper into her unsettling empathy. "Things will get better now," Gracie promised, her voice holding certainty. She stood up smoothly, her yellow eyes fixed on me for a moment before she turned and walked away, her footsteps on the concrete stairs. A golden ladybug pin lay on the step she left. It was small. Gracie's name was etched onto its back. I stared at the object in my palm. I felt bewildered by her words, but a small relief came over me. I placed the pin into my pocket. The stairwell felt empty after she left. I started to climb the steps back towards the classrooms. I walked down the hall, approaching my classroom door. It stood open just a crack. I pushed it wider and stepped inside. My teacher sat at his desk, his body rigid and facing the front of the room. My classmates occupied their own desks, each one unmoving. Their eyes were all wide open, staring straight ahead at nothing. I looked closer at their faces. Each person's mouth was closed. Dark threads pulled through their lips, stitching them together. Blood stained the threads and the skin around them. A terrible stillness filled the room, an absolute absence of sound. Gracie's promise that things would get better echoed in my head. My wish for quiet had been granted, absolute and horrifying. Every day began with the scraping of my boots on broken glass as I navigated what was left of Westheimer Road. Scavenging formed my existence now, a constant hunt through the skeletal remains of Houston. The sun beat down, turning the cracked asphalt into a mirror reflecting a dead city. Danger stalked every shadow. I had not spoken to another living soul for months. Loneliness gnawed at me, a persistent ache deeper than any hunger, dulling all other sensations. That afternoon, searching a collapsed bookstore near the Galleria, I heard movement. My hand went to the rusted pipe I used as a weapon, my heart thudding in my chest. A figure emerged from behind a toppled shelf. A woman. She introduced herself as Marla, her voice raspy but clear. Her eyes, wide and dark, held a desperate understanding of my own solitude. We did not exchange many words. The need between us spoke without language. Our hands found each other in the gloom. The empty building seemed to vibrate with our shared desperation. Her body was warm against mine, a momentary escape from the cold reality outside. We succumbed to the raw, urgent longing that consumed us both there on the dusty floor, a reckless act born of isolation and a catastrophic lapse in judgment. I stirred awake, fractured light of morning filtering through the bookstore's shattered ceiling. Marla lay beside me. Her breathing was too shallow, too still. I reached for her neck. Her skin felt cool, no pulse beat under my touch. She was dead. Her eyes then snapped open. They were milky white, fixed and wide. A gurgle ripped from her throat. Her body convulsed. A violent tremor passed through her. Her jaw unhinged with an impossible width, revealing ruined teeth. She clawed at the air, her fingers scrabbling on the floor. My rusted pipe lay a few feet away. I lunged for it, my hand closing around its familiar weight. She lunged too, a staggering, broken motion. Her mouth opened towards me, a wet, snapping sound. I brought the pipe down with all my strength. It struck her head with a sickening crunch. Her movement stopped. Her body fell back, lifeless again. The bookstore now held only my ragged breathing. I stared at Marla's twisted body. No bite marks marred her skin. No visible wounds explained her sudden transformation. She had simply died, then reanimated. My heart hammered against my ribs. A sudden tremor ran through my own arm. My head began to throb behind my eyes. A cold sweat broke out on my forehead. Then the understanding arrived, horrifying and definite. Marla had not been bitten. She had been infected another way. Our reckless act, the desperate human connection, had delivered the virus to me. The infection had passed through our intimacy. My own death now waited for me, an ironic end to a desperate attempt at connection. My heart now beat a strange rhythm in my chest. The end arrived, not with a roar, but with a simple need. I survived the walkers and navigated the dangers of desperate men. My existence was a constant scavenge through a dead world. My downfall came from a momentary lapse, a need for warmth in the cold vacuum of existence. This is my legacy, I suppose. I am the one who died from getting laid in the apocalypse. So, if any of you are still out there, listening, heed this final warning. Keep your distance. Stay safe. Do not give in to that desperate human touch. This virus finds new paths. It travels through intimate acts, even quick ones. Learn from my fate. I am a true Darwin Award winner, a monument to human stupidity and the ultimate irony. Do not join me.